Hello and welcome once again to the Microsoft GitHub DevOps Summit. I'm really thrilled that you could join us today for this session on FinOps, optimizing your cloud. My name is Taran Arora. I'm the head of cloud transformation and director of engineering for Avanade across UK and Ireland. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for 9 years running, focusing on Azure development tools. I love DevOps. I talk about it all the time. I've written many books about the subject. Clearly not enough to retire already, so here I am talking to you about FinOps. In my role at Avanade, I help clients unlock the true value of cloud by advancing their journey into the cloud. I share my opinions on Twitter, so if you're around on Twitter, give me a tweet. I also run a YouTube channel called Azure DevOps TV, where I share the latest in DevOps. So please feel free to drop into the channel and check out the various playlists I have on Azure DevOps and DevOps in general. Okay, well, a little bit about Avanade before moving in to talk about FinOps. Avanade is a digital innovator in cloud services, business solutions, and design-led experiences throughout the Microsoft ecosystem. We were formed 20 years ago as a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture. 20 years on, we've grown 20% year on year and have recorded 2 billion plus in revenue this year. We are a global organization with presence in 20 plus locations with 45,000 plus specialists in Microsoft technologies and cloud experience. We have won the Microsoft DevOps Partner of the Year award for 2020 amongst many other Microsoft Global Partnership Awards. We're the world's first GitHub Global Verified Partner, and we are the #1 partner in driving Azure consumption for Microsoft globally. We take pride in the work that we do, and Microsoft is truly within our DNA. Every journey to the cloud is unique, just like every client is unique. However, we can frame a pathway and a transformation, as we've seen with many clients, into 3 horizons. Horizon 1 is very much about lifting and shifting into the cloud. Lifting and shifting into the cloud is seen as the least path of resistance to move into the cloud. And the drivers for this could be one or many. An upcoming renewal on the data center lease, data center exit, the constraints in not being able to get more up-to-date infrastructure within your private setup, not being able to expand, so capacity constraints, needing the speed to procure infrastructure, and all of these drivers allow you to sort of accelerate the journey into the cloud and unlock immediate value by migrating into the cloud. Most of the clients in this horizon tend to focus on leveraging Azure IaaS workloads, and with minimum modernization and transformation, lift and shift their workloads into the cloud. Horizon 2 is where the optimization and the modernization starts to play in. As you start to realize that the cloud isn't as cheap as you thought it would be, and that things aren't going as fast as you thought cloud would make them go. Because at the end of the day, for the cloud to become more cost effective and for you to get the business agility that you thought you would, you need to start to optimize your applications and modernize your applications to get the best benefits out of it. The general consensus is when we lift and shift into the cloud, we scale the size of the VMs to their peak performance. Therefore, while we anticipate that it will cost less when we run those workloads in the cloud, in essence, it costs more if anything else. And that's where Horizon 2 is really important, because now you can focus on understanding your consumption in the cloud, look at the cloud invoice with enough detail behind it. You can easily pinpoint the utilization of the servers and the cost. And being able to analyze this data effectively, you can start to apply optimization. And we're going to talk more about that as we progress further into the presentation. But here, things like being able to scale up, scale down VMs, turn them off when they're not being used, being able to delete resources when you're not using them anymore, are all hygiene factors to be able to reduce your spend within the cloud and then recoup that cost to drive more modernization in the cloud. That's in essence what Horizon 2 focuses on. There's only so much optimization that you can get by modernizing a legacy application and optimizing your cloud spend. To maximize the value from your cloud investments, you need to move and mature into Horizon 3. Horizon 3 is where you become cloud native. You start to design cloud native architectures using cloud native tooling to go from code to cloud in seconds, to be able to be resilient from point failures, to be able to scale your microservices as you see peaking demands within your business, to be able to take your localized applications globally, to be able to leverage the intelligence that the cloud offers you. But a lot of that depends on effective use of DevOps tooling to be able to mature your practices, to think and adopt infrastructure as code, zero touch time deployments, having security become everyone's responsibility, moving it left into the application development lifecycle, and not having any manual touch points. And that takes a lot of effort, and that's why this journey becomes a lot more fruitful as you mature yourself from Horizon 1 into Horizon 2 into Horizon 3. So where in the journey are you? If you're an organization that is yet to embark on the journey to the cloud, FinOps is not for you. This would be like putting the cart before the horse. However, if you're an organization that has embarked on their journey to the cloud and have enterprise software running on cloud workloads, now may be a good time to start thinking about FinOps. If you're an organization that is in Horizon 2 and Horizon 3, you should absolutely be on top of your FinOps game, because that will absolutely allow you to maximize your cloud investments by reducing your spend and freeing up that spend to invest in more modernization to get the most value out of your cloud investments. So I would reiterate that FinOps is best placed for customers that are within the Horizon 2 and Horizon 3 of their cloud migration journey. 47% of the CIOs cited reasons for migrating into the cloud as cost optimization. Yet, annually, we spend 17 billion in wasted cloud spend. The annual total cloud spend in 2021 is forecasted to be 305 billion. This is an increment of 18% from last year. Of the 7 billion wasted spend in the cloud, 11 billion is wasted from idle resources. Yes, those VMs that are provisioned in anticipation of use, but never utilized. 6 billion from oversized resources. Machines that we spin up for peak performance workloads, but never utilize. Those cheeky developers that ask for the highest spec machines to run their build agents are probably included in this stat as well. Customers that are just moving from on-premise to the cloud don't really appreciate that cloud is a metered commodity. When not using an Azure resource, being able to decommission it, delete it, or turning it off can lead to plentiful savings within your cloud spend. This is a paradigm shift, but one that FinOps really enforces and lets you get better at. All right, now that we've set the foundation for what the cloud journey looks like and what the potential figures in cost optimization could look like, let's zoom in and look into what FinOps really means. What the ops? FinOps stands for financial operations. Optimization isn't a one and done act. Optimization requires a good rigor around it on an ongoing basis, and that's why FinOps, because what it allows you to do is set up a optimization rhythm, which in the first instance can help you save up to 20-30% quite easily by being able to go in, look at the utilization, and set up things for right sizing the virtual instances that you may have provisioned, being able to turn off VMs by setting up schedules for auto switch off over weekends and auto startups during weekdays, and shutdowns during off-peak hours. Simple things like being able to use Azure hybrid licensing for your Windows workloads. If you already have SQL quality assurance in your existing on-prem licensing, then you can save from paying the expensive SQL licenses twice, one on-premise, one in the cloud. So that, these are simple techniques to be able to reduce your cloud spend. And then start to look at the more advanced things such as auto-scaling, right? Why set up machines for peak workloads when you have the ability to auto-scale them based on various events and signals that will allow you to look at the consumption of the virtual machine itself? Some of the other techniques here could be to resize the disks because again, storage comes at a certain cost, especially when you're using premium disks and SSD disks. Being able to look at virtual network consumption, being able to look at your express route consumption, being able to look at what parts of your application are chirpy and that are leading to ingress-egress charges and how that could be optimized. Once you've done that, the next step is to look at hybrid benefits, to look at reserved instances where you can, based on your needs of consumption, secure certain workloads in the cloud for longer duration and therefore pay less price for it, because in essence you've guaranteed that you'd be using that workload for a longer duration. So these techniques need to be set up, but you can't just do them once and forget about them. And that's why the second part, which is create visibility and control, is an important aspect of FinOps. This is where you would set up a single pane of glass to be able to see all your cloud spend in one place by leveraging a sensible tagging scheme that breaks down your cloud spend by application or by service or by a cost code, which allows you to set up things like chargeback within your organization, being able to show your product owners how their applications in specific are consuming the cloud spend. And it's a healthy metric, right? If you're running a product or you're developing a product, and ultimately the bottom line is how much does it cost you to run the services that power the product versus the revenue you generate from selling that product, and the netting off of that is really your profit. And therefore having that split by leveraging tagging, by being able to see that within a single pane of glass using advanced reporting techniques available to you, is the second part of FinOps. The third part of it is the ongoing governance. So to be able to create a target operating model that allows you a better operating procedure in place to be able to, on an ongoing basis, review your consumption in the cloud and identify applications which are good candidates for rotating into more cloud native services or cloud managed services to reduce your cloud spend. And also this allows you to plan your capacity, plan your budget, and your spend within cloud services. Bringing the three together is really what FinOps stands for. It's a combination again of people, processes, and tools, just like DevOps. It's fair to say that FinOps could be carried out as a DevOps practice, not necessarily to say your DevOps engineers are your financial experts, but bringing the two together and making them accountable for the outcomes of this can very well be a target operating model that could work out quite well. Let's move on to start talking about tooling. It's fair to say that a fool with a tool is still a fool. So don't expect to get amazing results if you don't embed the process and the cultural changes that are needed to make FinOps a practice that becomes practical within your organization. Let's step through these tools one by one. Let's start off by going through Power BI, Azure Cost Management Power BI app. The Cost Management app is a plug-and-play app. It is served up as a Power BI app, free to download. You would, however, need Power BI Professional license in order to use this app. In order to set this up, you would simply install this app in Power BI and key in your Azure Enterprise account details. This links up with your Azure Enterprise account, therefore starts to give you a holistic view of your Azure cost and your Azure spend across all of the subscriptions managed under your EA. The one limitation, however, is that this app requires that you have an Azure EA in place. So you can't use this app if you're using a private instance or a pay-as-you-go instance that isn't backed by an enterprise agreement. It gives you various rich information sets, so you'd be able to see things like Azure hybrid licenses, where can potential savings be made by using reserved instances. You'd be able to see your actual price sheet, which is from your actual enterprise agreement. Some of the screenshots here show you how the data is available, and you can slice and dice the data by various parameters. So it's a great way to be able to have a single pane of glass where you can see rich set of consumption data for all of the workloads across all of your subscriptions. Now bear in mind where this falls flat is if you are a subscription under an enterprise agreement and you don't have enterprise agreement keys, then you won't be able to install this app. Now, I've worked with customers before where they are a small unit embedded within a big group and don't necessarily have access to enterprise agreement keys, and therefore, you almost need someone else to plug those details in for you to be able to see this data set. So that's one limitation that you need to keep in mind when you set up cost management app using Power BI. It's a great tool, but there is a bit of a barrier to entry there. The second option that's available to you is the cost management billing. Now, this functionality resides within the Azure portal, and it's very, very rich, and it's getting better by the day. It gives you your cost management billing view on all levels. You could drill at it at the management level, so to be able to see this across subscriptions. You could drill at it at the subscription level. You could drill the cost spend across a collection of resource groups or a single resource group or a resource type, for example, VMs, or you could go granular to an individual resource as well. It's very much in the context in the Azure portal on the blade as well. So you could click into a specific resource type and then see the option of cost management around that. I find it quite interesting when you start to pivot the data and see, your biggest spend is around storage, and that's not something a lot of people perceive that their spend would be around when they're running virtual machines. But storage that's not managed tends to have runaway cost as well. So Azure Cost Management and Billing allows you to manage your cloud spend confidently, because not only does it allow you to see your cloud spend, but it also gives you a rich set of recommendations that will allow you to optimize your spend. As we look further, you can see that you can monitor the cloud spend, and it gives you that ability of being able to see the spend by at different levels, including at the subscription level and at the lower granularities as well. It allows you to have an increased organizational accountability where you can go in and set certain levels of budgets at different levels for different teams as well, and gives you that rich insight on how you could potentially be optimizing by looking at your consumption patterns and where there's potential opportunities for reducing your cloud spend. Now, it may come to you as a surprise, but you could actually use the cost management service within Azure to manage not only the Azure spend, but the AWS spend as well. By being able to configure this service to ingest your AWS cloud spend, you can see the aggregated data in one place and be able to analyze that as well. In addition to that, it's part of the bigger suite of the security and compliance toolset, but it doesn't need to be used in tandem with that. It could be used independently as well. Next, let's talk about open source tooling. The first and the obvious choice that comes to mind is Cloud Custodian. Let's look at it in more detail. So Cloud Custodian is an open source tool that is providing you a framework for writing policies. It uses YAML as the authoring language, and it gives you a command line interface that you can plug into any pipeline solution as well. So think of a typical scenario. You have amples of infrastructure that is running in Azure, and you want to enforce certain policies. And a policy could be that at 6 p.m. all virtual machines that are providing workspace capability for developers are auto switched off. That's exactly what you can do with Cloud Custodian. Create a YAML file specifying the Azure resource provider as the type, and then going in to write a query format on the compute type to look for the workspace type virtual machines, and then sort of enforce an action, which is to switch them off. Now, this tool set is sort of heterogeneous, works across Windows, Linux, works across Azure, AWS, GCP. So the benefit is if you have a multi-cloud setup environment, you could be using this one platform to manage not only the cost, but the remediation and the actioning of optimization right from one policy enforcement file set. If we look further at some of the examples, you can see here that it's pretty rich, right? So you could have policies that on an ongoing basis can be executed to go and look for orphaned disks or orphaned NIC cards, which is a property type on virtual machine, and then simply perform an action type of delete or notify, for example, if you didn't want to delete them. So it's got plenty of good documentation around it, which should help you get started with it fairly quickly. I've also created a video on YouTube, a video on my YouTube channel, which walks you through how to set up Cloud Custodian and use it for Azure as well as for AWS by writing simple policy files and then linking these policy files using Azure DevOps to run on an ongoing basis to inspect your Azure subscription and apply these policies to take remediation action. Now, it's fair to say that if you're optimizing your infrastructure by looking at a month-old invoice, then chances are that you're paying the uptick in the cost for 30 days before you get a chance to optimize it. Wouldn't it be great if you had a way of seeing what the uptick in cost would be at the point of deploying the infrastructure? The next tool that we're going to talk about, which is InfraCost, gives you the ability to do exactly that. As you're writing your Terraform code for provisioning your infrastructure as code through the approval process in your pull request, you would be able to see if these incremental changes to your infrastructure as code get deployed, then what would be the actual uptick in cost. And you can have the approval process right then and there to accept or block those changes should you not want to absorb the uptick in cost, or gives you a way of being able to second check whether it's justified to use that component, whether if a more effective or cheaper option may be available at that point. So as you can see with InfraCost, it's essentially using the pricing sheet provided by Azure and AWS to pull in the cost per resource type through the API and embedding that sort of within the Terraform to allow you this rich information set. Integrates with DevOps platforms such as GitHub and GitLab, and gives you the ability to invoke it through a hook within your pull request to be able to run that inspection and bring that rich information set through the Delta function. And it's a very collaborative section where you could see the price and then have a sensible conversation around that as part of the approval process to discuss why that uptick in the cost is justified. Now, it's got quite good documentation behind it as well. It's a command line tool set, so if you just wanted to run it locally, then you could do that as well. But you could equally run it as part of the pipeline as well. Avanade has also developed its own asset called Avanade Isotope, which uses the Azure Lighthouse technology to fetch in real time the usage metrics as well as the cost metrics from within Azure to bring to light on a single pane of glass an isotopic version of all of your Azure components, but surfacing some meaningful insights as you click through that universe of the isotope. It also gives you rich insights on what your spendings are and where the opportunities for optimization are. Now, the benefit is that this is evergreen, so without having to fiddle around with command lines or pipelines, you get this rich information set in one place, and you can see the evolution of the changes in the pricing as you start to optimize the landscape as well. Cloud optimization can yield some fantastic results. Up on your screen now is a case study from one of our clients where we not only help them embark on their journey to the cloud, but then help them in essence to optimize their estate by embedding FinOps and the appropriate governance processes that go along with it. Through a single pane of glass, being able to manage the entire estate across the organization allowed this client to not only see what they're spending, but optimize their application estate to improve their Azure consumption and then reinvest that effort to modernize the rest of the estate. Benefits of this optimization were far-reaching. We could see improvement in various aspects, but also a grand reduction of up to 70% in the operational management of the applications themselves. Take a moment to think about why are you migrating your applications to the cloud. It's not for the infrastructure. Ultimately, it's to modernize the applications to get more business value by being able to iterate on them quickly to seize the market opportunities that prevail in your sectors of operation. No matter where you are on the journey, we would be more than happy to help you modernize legacy applications by being able to apply modern engineering practices such as DevOps and agile ways of working, by being able to lift and shift your applications into the cloud, optimize them, come up with target operating models and cloud governance models, and then being able to pivot to using cloud native technologies such as containers to get the speed and the agility that your business needs. I hope you enjoyed the session on FinOps, and I would be looking forward to hearing your questions and thoughts in the Q&A section shortly.